It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Rich Bailey, DMD. He's a director of Onsite Dental Services, but you probably know him from back in the day. He was the founder of Billy Bob Teeth. That is just amazing. He has an article this month in Dental Town magazine, Mobile Treatment of Geriatric Patients. Before graduating from Southern Illinois School of Dental Medicine, Dr. Rich Bailey had already become an entrepreneur selling Billy Bob Teeth, which he invented while sitting in denture class. The novelty chompers brought laughter to millions and spawned a new global market. While serving as a dentist in a small North Idaho town, Bailey first recognized the incredible and largely unmet dental needs of senior citizens in long-term care facilities. He developed a unique approach to meeting the needs of this community, and Onsite Dental Services was born. Its mission, enhancing quality of life by improving oral health. Onsite Dental Services is a mobile dental practice bringing a full line of dental services to his patients residing in long-term facilities. The needs of those in skilled nursing or long-term facilities are unique. With a gentle touch and a primary focus on prevention, he seeks innovations to meet each patient's individual needs. Hey, it's just a huge honor to have you on this show. By the way, I was a big customer of Billy Bob Dental Teeth. I mean, what year did that come out?
Oh, I think the first set of teeth probably were invented in '94. So I was still in school at the time, and we were slowly turning it into a business. A buddy and I, while I was still in school.
And so it was in '94. That was the year Amazon went live. So were you selling them on the internet?
They've made a little more money than my partner and I have, but we've still been able to make the trailer payments.
But you were selling them online in '94.
No, I don't think we started that till probably 96, 97, somewhere in there. In the beginning, it was literally like, gun shows, car shows, county fairs, coon dog conventions, just weird stuff, state fairs. And then we slowly moved our way up to, Sturgis and the Super Bowl and, you name it. If NASCAR, if there was a lot of people there, we seemed to, we just basically, if you could make people laugh, they'd buy teeth. It wasn't tough once we figured it out.
Oh, it was genius. I bought several pairs. I think every dental speaker in America walked out and started his lecture with Billy Bob Teeth in at one time as a joke, and then on Halloween, my four boys loved them. I mean, that was just nice. That was just amazing. And what a time, Dental Town. This is the day after St. Patrick's Day. And Dental Town started 20 years ago in '99, and that's about when you were selling them online, right?
Yeah, you guys have done well, Howard.
Well, thanks, man. It's we're just riding the wave, the internet wave. I mean, I saw that wave break out about '94, about when Amazon went public. I think Google went public in '98. And I never forgot. It was the first time I got online. It was Yahoo groups. Oh, no, it was before Yahoo. It was CompuServe. And if you went to dentist at CompuServe, you were in this email chain where I met Mike Barr. And it was just so damn cool to be talking to a dentist in Florida when you were in Phoenix. And it was just instant crack cocaine addiction for me. I just said, this is hot. But nobody really saw the vision. I mean, when I launched Dental Town in '99, my dad and my sister, my ex, spent the entire day crying in my kitchen, telling me I'm wasting all the family money and this is because it was AOL dial-up but I'll never forget what Jeff Bezos said. They asked him, it was '94. I knew it was going to work. And he said, why are you selling books? And if you're selling books, why aren't you books.com? Why are you Amazon? He says, well, the problem is the pipes. And right now the pipe is so small, the only thing you can sell is something that doesn't require a picture or a video. So just text, and we're selling books. But as the pipes get bigger, we'll be able to download photos, and then we'll go in and dismember all the direct mail businesses, whether, whatever they're mailing you catalogs for at your home mailbox. And then he said someday it'll get so big that it'll be movies and video. So it's just a matter of the pipes. So we jumped on the Yeah. So what do you think the next thing? I mean, we lived through that ride. I've been surfing that internet ride for 20 years. What do you think the next big thing is? You're an entrepreneur. You're a hell of an entrepreneur.
Well, one thing that I see every day is what they call the silver tsunami. There's so many senior citizens, the baby boomers coming into this age group right now that there's just incredible need to serve those people and not enough to do it. So anybody that's in the senior citizen business is going to do just fine.
Yeah, and by the way, they'll all the people who bought Billy Bob teeth will spill silver tsunami. They'll spell tsunami with an S, but the T is silent.
Right.
There's a T Billy Bob in that tsunami. But it's when you look at the demographics, what's the fastest growing demographics? Women over 100. What's the second? Women over 90. What's the third? Women over 80. I think you have a woman now in Japan who just got certified by the Guinness Book of World Record as the oldest person alive. I think she's 114, which 114 is 1 million hours. So she
that's incredible.
So now we have humans living 1 million hours. Who would have thought that? But yeah, so let's talk about that. So the ADA recognizes 9 specialties. One of them is pediatric dentistry. And they probably should be looking at geriatric dentistry, because one of those things that's so embarrassing being American is that 4.5% of Americans will finish out their life in a nursing home. And the average person in a nursing home is getting 1 root surface cavity a month. So as soon as grandma's been in there a year, she's got 12 root surface cavities. Do you concur with that or not really?
Oh, yeah, there's root caries everywhere you look in our neck of the woods. So, yep, there's huge need.
So you said silver tsunami. Will that also be silver diamine fluoride?
Yeah, that's one of the products. I was just using that this morning, actually, on a patient. We can't put every fire out, but if we can slow the fires down, I always try to pretend that that's my grandma in the chair. What would I want done? And the seniors can't handle major dentistry, a lot of them. So you have to do the most conservative, simple thing possible to do what's in their best interest, I believe. So that's a great product to accomplish that.
Well, why
Sure.
is it so that's really the controversy of it. I think the pediatric of all the specialties, the pediatric dentists are probably the most vocal on Dental Town. We just had. Literally, we have 1,000 pediatric dentists that participate on Dental Town, and how I see that debate is that if you need a pulpotomy and chrome steel crown, I will just absolutely do it. The flip side of that is there's younger pediatric, I call them next generation pediatric dentists, that don't want to be dragging a 2-year-old kid to an OR. Because whenever you put a child to sleep, it's high risk, dangerous, and so they like to paint silver diamine fluoride on there. But then a lot of the older dentists are saying, So can you address that controversy? Why does it seem like all the pediatric dentists my age, the majority of them want to do it the way they've done it their whole life, and the younger pediatric dentists under 30, like Jeanette McLean right here in Arizona, she likes the stuff. Why does she like it? And people older than her dad would not like it.
I don't think it's any more complicated than that, saying it's hard to teach old dogs new tricks. We all get in a routine habit. We have techniques that work well in our hands, and there's nothing wrong with either approach. It's just difference in philosophy. But with seniors, they can't handle a lot, so it's a very gentle way to slow things down. We're not trying to do, full mouth restorations. We're just kicking the can down the road. So that's one of the tools at our disposal. I'm hoping that our little chat today will inspire some young dentists to consider this as an option, because I feel like it's the best. I just love what I do, and I can't, that wasn't always how I felt about dentistry at different stages of my career. So I finally found the shoe that fit, and I hope some other dentists will, be inspired to, think about this as an option.
Well, the key to, business in 3 words is supply and demand, and demographics matter, and you're supposed to go where they ain't. And there isn't hardly anyone doing mobile dentistry, let alone in nursing homes. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's very few, and there's a reason for that, Howard. I before I got into this, I took quite a bit of continuing ed, and I wanted to see, how other dentists were doing it. And what I found is that everybody understands that there's a problem. Everybody can see that prevention's a problem. Everybody can see that there's not enough dentists caring, for seniors. But what didn't seem to be out there was a simple way to earn a living. Dental schools and management companies train us to run on the treadmill in a brick and mortar practice. That's just what they do. And it's a totally different animal serving this group of people. So I could see immediately that there's going to be, a need for a different kind of equipment and also different workflow in order to make it profitable. Because if you can't make it profitable, you're not going to motivate many dentists to do what we do. So I had to simplify and cut the fat off and, just figure out what I needed and what I didn't need. So if you want, I could show you the equipment today, kind of how it's set up.
Please. So if you're listening to this on iTunes, we always pride ourselves in a good sound file, but, we put this on YouTube because YouTube and Google are the two largest search engines in the world. We have over 10,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Thanks for subscribing. It's youtube.com/Dentaltown Magazine. So if you're listening to iTunes, switch over to YouTube. Now you can see some videos. So show us, where are you at right now? Are you in your mobile?
All right, I'm in the sixth floor of an assisted living facility here in the state of New York, and they give us, depending upon which facility we're talking about, we borrow a different room. So this time we happen to be borrowing the library, which works just fine. You can see that chair right there. This chair is an electric wheelchair. I'm gonna turn it on, and it's not only the dental chair, it's also the taxi service. So this chair elevates up. I'm lifting it up right now. And seniors don't do real well when you tip them too far back in a chair. So we do stand-up dentistry. We raise them up to a comfortable height for us, and then I tip them back to where we can get in there, and that way they're not struggling with saliva. But you can see how high this chair is now in comparison to me, and also the chair. A lot of seniors have trouble getting around, so I literally drive the chair down the road. I got a little joystick right here, and I can drive this thing wherever I want it to go. I go down the hall, pick up a senior citizen, bring them back. We've got a couple of pillows that make it more comfortable. So that's part of what helps. Another thing that helps is this light stand.
I need to stop you right there. Now, this medical electric chair, this dental electric wheelchair, is that from, did you buy that from John McPeak, president of ASI Medical? Is that?
No. Okay. I bought this on, I'm actually a dealer for this particular brand of chair. And so, I buy used chairs, and, they're pretty expensive if you buy them new, but there's a big market for the used ones. So I buy a good used one and make sure one of my technicians checks it out. So the chair is, about $5,000. But it does everything, and it will tip all the way back.
How does my homie buy one of these chairs? What's the name of it?
This particular brand is called Permobil, Permobil.
Permobil, Permobil.
Right,
Permobil chair.
But you also have, and I would recommend any of your listeners that want to check into this call me, because it's easy to buy a pile of junk. It's also easy to buy a chair that doesn't have all the features that you need. The chair has to have elevate, tilt. It has to have, the legs have to be able to move. A lot of these chairs don't have all these power functions. So you got to have all the right bells and whistles on these chairs to make sure that it's actually going to serve your purpose. So, and I've trained a couple dentists out in Idaho to do what I do. So you want them to call you?
What number do you want them to call you at?
Just call me on my cell phone, 509-330-3232.
Okay,
I'll
now. 509.
Yep.
Then what?
330.
330.
Yep. 3232.
So how crazy are you giving out your cell phone number on Dentistry Uncensored?
Well,
that was your worst idea of the day. How are you gonna ruin that idea? So you don't want them to go to Permobil, the website that makes that chair is permobil.com. You don't want them to go to there and buy it because you said it'll be too expensive and what?
Oh, these chairs brand new are about $25,000, but you can pick them up on eBay.
If you
know what you're looking for, you can pick one up for $4,000 or $5,000. But you got to make sure they have all the right bells and whistles. But you can't just have the chair because you got to have good lighting. So I'm going to show you this light stand right here. This light stand is one of my inventions. I've got a patent on this thing. But this light stand just holds a standard conventional dental light at the right height because, as I said, we're doing stand-up dentistry. So we have to have good lighting at the right height. So these two pieces of equipment work perfectly together. The chair puts enough weight on the pedestal so that the light stand is totally stable. The chair weighs 250 pounds and the patient weighs 100 and whatever. So there's, over 400 pounds typically on this chair, which is resting on the pedestal of the light stand, which stabilizes the light. Otherwise, the light wouldn't be as stable as we'd want it to be. But you can wrench all over this light and it doesn't, it's not going anywhere. So conventional dental light mounted on this post. You move it just like a volleyball, what do you call it, a volleyball net stand. You know how they put wheels on them to move the post? It's the same concept.
Okay.
And then another piece of equipment that I use is this delivery unit by ASI. The thing it's a beast. It's had it for years and just totally pleased with that. So that's another piece of equipment. I also bring a big cabinet like that to store all the equipment in. It's got lockable doors, so nobody gets in there at night. Keep all the sharps and chemicals and whatnot locked up. So that's some of the equipment that I use. But there's a lot more to it than just the equipment. You gotta, as I mentioned, I've trained a couple dentists out in Idaho to do what I do. And a big part of it is, approaching the administrators the right way, approaching the patients the right way, approaching the family members the right way. It's not rocket science once you understand it, but it's a little different animal than conventional dentistry. So you really have to, it's like anything. Once you see it a few times, you get it. But what I do is not taught in dental schools. I can tell you that.
Okay, so what are you doing then? Well, first of all, I want to stop you. Phoenix, Arizona is a big retirement for Canadians and Americans west of Mississippi. If they're east of Mississippi, they go to Florida. Right. But I don't know if any of these young kids listening have ever even really been in a nursing home. So what is the clientele like in a nursing home? I mean, I assume it's 90% women?
No, it's a mix. I mean, there probably are more women than men, but there's a mix. And also nursing home is for people that need a higher level of care. What I'm in right now, for example, is an assisted living facility. So these are seniors that still have, a lot of independence, but they need some help, some of them. So basically people that can walk are in an assisted living facility, and people that are struggling to walk are in a nursing home. That's a oversimplified way of explaining it. But, we need dentists at both types of facilities. So, and something else to think about too, I didn't understand when I was in dental school, a brick and mortar practice, in a sense, to me, is a treadmill. There's always somebody pushing the faster button. There's the staff, which you got to keep happy, which to me was sometimes a miserable endeavor. And overhead's, a monster sometimes. So there's a lot of pressure on dentists to, and you live in the moment of, what do they call it? Units, 10-minute, management companies talk about 10 minutes. That's a unit. And so every part of your day is scheduled out. And some people love that, but to me, that kind of felt like a prison after a while. So this is the part of the reason why I love this so much is I get to be me, and I'm not on a treadmill. I still earn a great living, but I'm not on a treadmill anymore. And I'll give you an example of that is I don't have a schedule. I know that sounds crazy, but seniors are kind of quirky, and it might take a guy 10 minutes to find his pants or whatever. So, to have a schedule that's based around that, and you never know how long it's going to take you to do something. I found it just didn't work well. So I have a list of people that need and want to be seen, and I just go down the hall and see who's awake, see who's not playing bingo, see who's in a good mood, and that's who we get in the chair. And so I can be spontaneous. I can keep someone in the chair for as long as it takes, or if it's a short visit, then we set them free and go get somebody else. So every day, I don't know. stress has disappeared. Not to mention the fact that overhead is like, for a business like this, is about 15%, which sounds ridiculously low for the dental industry. But think about it. There's no building to maintain. There's no parking lot to maintain. There's no landlines. There's no property taxes. I have one part-time employee, well, 1.5, depending on which day of the week it is. I don't have a hygienist. I got rid of that a while back. That didn't seem to fit well for this. So, it's bare bones overhead. So, which means that you don't have to work like you're a one-legged man at a butt kicking party. You can relax, and overhead's not going to eat you alive, and you get to have fun with patients. Seniors are a kick, so I enjoy the heck out of the interaction part of it. So
overhead is amazing. So if you, let's take 4 dentists who take home $25,000 a month at 50% overhead, which was the average overhead when I got out of school 3 decades ago, you'd only have to do $50,000 and net $25,000. Today, average overhead is 65% according to the ADA, which means the net $25,000, you got to do $71,500, and 20% of dental practices have overhead over 80%, so they have to do $125,000 a net $25,000. So when you look at that, you just said you have 15% overhead. I mean that is just amazing. So is it insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, cash only? How does that work?
It's a mix of Medicaid and private pay. So like the facility that I'm at right now, it's probably 95% Medicaid. But I've been at facilities where there's 0% Medicaid. But it almost doesn't make a difference because you got to remember that there's not a lot of vitality left on seniors' teeth. And mostly what I'm doing is class 5 fillings. And so you can excavate a lot of caries in a short period of time if you've got good technique and you don't have to anesthetize. So, that's part of the secret to how you earn a good living at this is there's, time is money. And if we don't have to hassle with the drama of anesthetic, then you can do quite a bit of dentistry in a short period of time. And even the people that are private pay, I think once I get a chance to explain the service to the families, they realize that I'm not a scam artist. I'm just a guy trying to help seniors if they want it. And we're not looking to do major dentistry. We're simply looking to find simple, conservative ways to help them keep what they currently have.
So you're mostly doing restorative dentistry?
Yep.
You're mostly doing fillings, class 5 fillings?
Mostly doing fillings and relining dentures. Seniors don't adapt well to change. And if you make an 85-year-old a brand new set of dentures, even if they look great and fit well, they're probably not going to wear them. Change is so hard. They like their favorite old denture just like they like their favorite old shoe. So I always try to remember we're in the business of making people happy. So they usually end up being a lot happier with if we can simply improve their favorite old denture, either adjust the sore spots or tighten it up with a reline, or fix a broken tooth, whatever. But that usually ends up making them happier than getting them a new denture. Most of them can't tolerate conventional crown and bridge at this stage. That's kind of hard on them. So we're smoothing off rough edges. We're packing in fillings. Glass ionomer or whatever you want to use. And there's really very little drama when you remove the anesthetic, and it's very profitable when you don't have to, tinker with it. So it's pretty efficient.
Yeah. You know what? Everybody always talks about, when they talk about politics, they always talk about life, liberty, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, but it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I think the pursuit of happiness is one of the things that solves so many political debates. But they're always talking about amendments or laws or this. But you said it well. Grandma wants her old denture. She wants to be happy. She doesn't want to break in a new denture. So I want to pin you down on these fillings though. So if you're doing mostly restorative, is it mostly root surface decay or is it recurrent decay under class 2s?
Some of both, but I would say the majority of it is new recurrent or new caries in nooks and crannies. Some of it's interproximal, but so like for example, people with dementia, I've figured out this routine of when I get done with the prophy and they get used to the vibration of the prophy cup. And I'm also distracting them with Lawrence Welk or Glenn Miller, whatever their favorite music is. So we're rocking.
Those are two of my favorites.
They get used, right? They get used to the vibration of that polishing cup. And then I start sneaking in there with a little like number 2 round burr on the slow speed, which has a similar vibration if you take it easy. And then you bump it up to a 4 or a 6 round, just keep excavating caries. And if you have to, take it up to an 8. And, sometimes people who have Alzheimer's or dementia will ask, what are you doing in there? And then I'll say, well, your daughter Debbie wanted to make sure that we got your teeth cleaned real well, and I saw this one tooth need a little extra attention, so we're getting that cleaned out for you. We're going to be done here in just a minute, but just keep listening to Lawrence here, and we'll be done here in just a minute. So I've done a dozen cavities on seniors, and quite often they don't even know that they had any restorative work done. We drilled, filled, and billed, and they didn't even know it. So that's a real, and so as you can see, it's not sexy high-end dentistry. We're hardly ever place an implant. We're hardly ever doing root canals. My criteria for taking out a tooth, and this is just a personal thing, is if there's pain, swelling, or they want it out, I'll take it out. But if I took out every tooth that's non-restorable, is broken down, I'd be putting a lot of seniors through a lot of invasive stuff. And as you know, it's hard on seniors. Even if the tooth slides out nice and easy, they sometimes look like they were in a bar fight the next day. So, I will take it out under one of those 3 conditions. But if it's not one of those 3, I'm not going to try to talk them into it, because that's a pretty fast way to make an enemy. And, nursing homes are like little towns. Everybody talks. So if somebody's sore, they're bruised, that spreads real quickly. So we're trying to be simple and non-invasive. That's part of it.
But this is Dentistry Uncensored, and I want you to I want you to really address something. It seems like 30 years ago when I got out of school, all the fillings were silver fillings, and every ingredient of a silver filling is antibacterial: mercury, silver, zinc, tin, copper. Then we had this aesthetic revolution where we were taking out all these fillings and replace them with inert plastic. I mean, when you're seeing the end of this this life cycle where someone's approached their 1 million hours on the surface of Earth, do you think the idea to stop using silver fillings and replace them with inert plastic, do you see this as a good idea when you're in nursing homes? And are you using composites, or are you going back to amalgam? I've seen research that says when you do a root surface cavity with an amalgam, it'll last 4 to 6 times longer than if you did it with an inert plastic composite. Then some people are trying to say, well, then maybe we should use, a glass ionomer. So talk about the antibacterial effects. Why do we use, rant on that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you from my own set of experiences. I know that you can find research on both sides of that argument, and I have no dog in that fight, because the reason I don't argue with people much about it is because when I started off in private practice, 20-some years ago, I was in a blue-collar town, and 90% of my patients had a mouthful of these amalgam fillings. And, most of these people lived to be in their 80s and 90s and were relatively healthy. So I really had a hard time justifying talking people into taking them out to replace them. Now, that being said, I'm not God. I don't know everything. Could they cause a health risk? I don't know. But because of what I saw, I had a hard time talking people into it. What I did was I just said, hey, it's your mouth, it's your decision. If you've read something that makes you feel strongly, it doesn't violate my conscience to do it. But I also, on the other hand, I have a hard time I'm not going to try to talk you into it. So, and nobody can argue with the restorative value that the material brings. They're pretty tough, and they last decades. So that's a pretty good track record. So. I think the evidence is overwhelming that they last twice as long as posterior composites. I mean, when you tell a dentist that posterior 2-surface MOD composite lasts 6.5 years, they're always going to say, "Well, not in my hands. I couldn't even take swimming lessons when I was a kid because I kept walking on the water. I couldn't get underneath the water." They just think they're so gifted. But when the military says their silver fillings last 38 years.
And you can find studies, but anyway, but back to grandma. So what do? You got grandpa. He has dementia.
Right.
He has Alzheimer's. He doesn't recognize his own child there. Are you placing amalgam, glass ionomer, or composite?
I'm using a composite that releases fluoride. So one of my favorite materials is Activa. Mm-hmm. It's a self-curing material that they have out now that is considered bioactive. So there's a interchange of ions with that in the two structures. So that's a material that I use a lot. And part of the reason why I like that material, two reasons. One is I've been doing it long enough that I've been able to see my work, survive through the years now, and it's doing great. So I've seen my own, I guess in a sense, been able to, see my own work over the course of time. So that's part of the reason. The other reason why I tend to use that one the most is because the tip is tiny, and when you're trying to, tease a restorative material into a nook and a cranny, and you can sneak it around and bend that tip and get into some of these interproximal areas without, upsetting the patient, without pushing on tissue. That little tiny tip is pretty handy. We're trying to be like dental ninjas in there. So that little tiny tip makes a difference. Now, that being said, I still use amalgam once in a while. I don't use it a lot, but I use it under the circumstances where it's subgingival and I can't seem to get the tissue out of the way, and, potential bleedings, we can't isolate it well. So I still use alloy, but only under those circumstances. It doesn't violate my conscience to do it. And really all dentistry, when you think about it, is, everything that we do is really falls short of God's handiwork. When you see a tooth that's never been touched by a dental tool, that's way better than anything that we can provide them. So, everything is a compromise. I don't care. In my opinion, everything that we do is not as good as the original equipment. So basically, in my mind, all restorative materials, including implants and root canals, we're all just limping people down to the final stage of life. So
they're 1 million hours.
Perfect.
You're just trying to get them to their 1 million hours. That's all we're trying to do.
I'm just kicking the can down the road, hoping that their teeth outlive them, not the other way around.
But I just want to be clear, because I know we live in a society now where, whether it comes to vaccinations or water fluoridation or amalgams, so, it's this new deal where people just decide, well, I don't want to believe that. It's like, well, space and time existed 14 billion years before you, and space and time doesn't really care if you agree with them or not, but it is the aesthetic health compromise. When we stopped using gold and silver, gold fillet, I have 7 restorations in my mouth and that are gold.
Hey Howard, hang on just a second. Absolutely. I gotta set a patient free. Hey Lee, I'll come find you when we're ready. Okay. Just go do your thing. Sorry about that.
It is absolutely an aesthetic health compromise. And we just saw that with a movie on Netflix where the root cause, where dentists just want to believe, they just want to no longer believe in the focal theory of infection. I mean, they just want to believe something, and the outrage was so outlandish that Netflix took the movie down. So I think the snowflake era, where we're not going to say something to offend you. I mean, that's why I call this podcast Dentistry Uncensored, because I don't care if I offend you or not. I'm trying to help you. And and if you don't agree with me, I mean, sure, you can shoot the messenger, or you can just sit there and say, does Howie have a point? Is there a point? And the point is, silver fillings last twice as long. And I see we're both fans of Pulpdent. Larry Clark was on this show, episode 417. He's the dental products and materials with Pulpdent Corporation, and that's their whole gig of saying, man, the next generation of fillings, obviously the market wants them white, but obviously anybody in biology or cariology wants them to be antibacterial. So you went with Pulpdent. So if you saw 100 cavities, how many of them would get a restoration versus how many of them would get silver diamine fluoride?
If I can, let's see, I would say probably 80% of the teeth, maybe 90% of the teeth that I cross paths with, I can at least get the caries stopped with my restorative material. For the ones that are too far gone, I basically excavate some caries to get down to as deep as I can reasonably. And then I paint it in. and then sometimes I'll even cover it up with some composite after that. It's not perfect dentistry, but as I said, we're at the stage of life where it's ninth inning, bases loaded, 2 on, 2 out. So I think it's a good option. That's what I'd do if it was my mom, my grandma.
I also want to point out something that dentists are always talking about their fee because that's the way insurance bills. But when I look at your overhead, it's time. I mean, an hour, you pay your rent on a monthly time. You pay all your bills monthly, but your income receives and these fee deals. So it's not the Medicaid fee. I mean, who cares if the Medicaid fee is $100 or $200? What matters is how much are you billing per hour. So a lot of my dentist friends, they can't believe that so-and-so across the street takes Medicaid, but that guy, when you come in and you have 7 cavities, he'll just sit down and do all 7 fillings in 1 hour. And a Medicaid only pays $100 a piece, he just made $700 an hour.
Ends are meeting.
Yeah, ends are meeting. Exactly. So you're a big provider of Medicaid. It sounds like you take Medicaid on these people.
Yeah. It's pretty easy to, even if they're paying me a low fee, I'm fast and I don't have to get them numb, and there's no drama, and I can do a lot of, the most inefficient part of this business is moving the stuff. So that's why it's important to make sure that, you see as many people in the building as you can, that you don't move the equipment more than you have to. As long, these people aren't going anywhere in general. So as long as I can get to them, then I'll line them up and, knock them down. It's not rocket science.
So you said twice you don't have to get them numb. There might be some kid listening in dental school saying, what do you mean you don't get them numb?
Well, occasionally you do. Like we had a patient this morning who is, closer to my age, and, we can't go in doing, big restorative work on someone middle-aged, but someone who's in their 80s or 90s, rarely for restorative work do I have to get them numb. I mean, occasionally, but that's
when they're in their 80s and
90s.
90s, a lot of times when I take bite wings, their pulp chamber is at the bone level. I mean, you can see that whole clinical crown doesn't even have a pulp change anymore. It's been laying down secondary dentin for 8 or 9 decades. So that's the point you're making?
Yeah, exactly. So you can sneak in there and, I've never enjoyed the invasive part of dentistry. So the fact that I don't do as much as I used to, I enjoy that part of it.
And what are you, you don't have a dental assistant. This is a one-man show?
I have one dental assistant, and they help me do everything that I do here. They clean things up, they tear things down. They're usually running a saliva ejector while I'm running a Cavitron in there, popping tartar off. They hand me whatever I need. But yeah, a hygienist, I tried it for a while. It just didn't work real well. You're paying a gal $40 an hour, and
right.
As I said, sometimes it takes a little while to track folks down in a nursing home. So it just didn't make sense. Plus, once I have them in the chair, as soon as I'm done cleaning things as well as they can tolerate it, that's the best time to just start excavating caries, minimize wasted movement. So
it's another thing no one wants to talk about, but of the only 3 publicly traded dental offices that are publicly traded, 2 are in Australia and 1 is in Singapore. None of them have hygienists for the exact same reason. They say I can't pay a hygienist $40 an hour to do a $55 cleaning. And so when you look at people who are stewards of capital, who have been able to access public capital, which is 1-300 Smiles, Pacific Smiles Group, Q&M out of Singapore, and I believe my dentist, which now has 800 dental offices in the United Kingdom, nobody publicly traded can make the hygiene system work. And then it can't work because if insurance will give you $800 for a root canal, but only give you $50 for a cleaning, well, when you pay me $600 to $800 for a root canal or a crown, you can hire a doctor. But when you give me $50 for a cleaning, I can't even hire a $40 an hour hygienist. And that's what you're saying too.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense.
And what doesn't make sense is every time I go into a dental office in Phoenix, Arizona to see one of my friends, when you walk in the back door unlocked, 90% of the time the doc's just sitting there. and he's got one or two hygienists cleaning teeth, and he's got some assistant making a temporary crown, and it's like, dude, you could be doing cleanings all day long, and they just tell you, I don't want to. I'm too lazy, but they know it's high overhead.
Yeah. This kind of practice isn't for everybody. You know, you kind of have to be self-motivated, and you got to have the desire to do it. You got to love seniors. But if someone, you know, enjoys the idea of working with seniors and wants to have little to no stress, this is the ultimate job. And one other thing too about this job, Howard, that seniors kind of forget I exist 5 minutes after I leave, which is a blessing, because if you want to have some freedom, my son and I have taken road trips that took us weeks. I was gone for weeks. I think it was, 9,000 miles I put on the car, and I don't think anybody noticed I was missing. And I can't tell you how much I love that. When you have a regular private practice and you have a big, group of people that you employ, there's going to be a handful of people that are mad at you if you disappeared for 6 weeks. So that's the other killer thing about this lifestyle.
So now, when you're billing, when you're doing your practice management, what software are you on that you're billing Medicaid, Medicare, or Medicaid?
We use one called Curve, which is cloud-based.
Right.
My wife likes it, so that's why we picked it. But yeah, we've got that down to a science. Really, if someone wants to do what I'm doing, you got to have them call me, because they need to see it themselves. You know, we can chat about it on a podcast, and we can, I can describe it in more detail if you want. But for them to know whether the shoe fits, they gotta come hang out with me for an afternoon and see what I do and see how it all works.
I wish you would post that after your article on Dental Town. It got a lot of traction. Your treatment, this month, mobile treatment of geriatric patients, Dental Town magazine, March 2019. I don't have the guts to post on there. He just told me to call him and give out your cell phone number. Only you can do that. But let's go back to Curve Dental out of Utah.
Right.
It's hard to say Curve Dental without saying cloud-based. I mean, was that the number one reason you went with Curve Dental, because cloud-based? If so, explain your decision.
As I said, I'm not looking at the computer screen. I don't do any charting here other than paper. So I do paper charting here, put it in a 3-ring binder. It's all in alphabetical order. When I'm done with this facility, I hand that over to my office manager. She cranks on that for a day, and she's got all the billing done, and she enters everything into our computer. So that's how we do it. I just didn't want to spend any extra time charting here. As far as why we bought it because my wife seemed to like it for some reason. So we'd have to ask her. But once.
Well, to me, your wife. For me, for the logistics, you would be thinking that you don't want to carry around a laptop, a server, be installing all kinds of software. I mean, you just. Right. I mean, it's like your smartphone. You don't have Google on your smartphone. When you search Google, you're just going to a cloud-based software. Same with all your social media sites, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. So your wife, it's probably the cloud-based function, but that's working well for you, Curve?
She seems to like it, and I really have nothing to do with it. So happy wife, happy life. You know how that goes.
So talk about your article in Dental Town. What made you write the article in Dental Town? Thank you for that. But what was your journey in doing that?
I was actually pretty happy all by myself in the mountains of Idaho, just doing my thing. And I had a dental colleague in southern Idaho who wanted to do what I do, and she, came up for a trip, and she kept nudging me that she wanted to be trained. And I wasn't against it, but it sounded like a bunch of work to me. And I didn't want to babysit anybody, and I didn't want to be. I just told her my biggest goal is I don't want anybody or anything to make me miserable, because I'm pretty happy the way things are. but she is doing well, and it actually was fun to train someone. So I just decided that, and plus the other thing is I have a real simple system that anybody could do if they want to do it. And there's a huge need, and part of me started thinking maybe it's kind of selfish of me not to share the knowledge that I have acquired. However, I just have everything dialed in, and I think anybody could do what I do if they saw it, if I trained them. So anyhow, she has nudged me to be a little more open with this knowledge that I have acquired. So anyhow, I just thought I'm going to make one effort at it. I'm going to write an article. And then I'm going to teach a class. I'm teaching a class down in Atlanta at the Special Care Dental Dentistry Association next month. It's called Mobile Dentistry Made Easy. So I'm going to teach one class.
That's your presentation?
Yeah.
Oh, tape it, film it, and then you can make it an online dental course.
I shouldn't I?
Yeah, film it, because these yuppies, these millennials, they love to watch it on their iPad or their iPhone instead of driving to a bricks and mortar convention. I mean, it's just, so what's the name of that society? It's called the Special Needs what?
Special Care Dentistry Association. So, it kind of covers geriatric dentistry, but also people that have special needs. So the class is called Mobile Dentistry Made Easy. And I think I'm teaching it on April the 12th or 13th. It's on Saturday, whatever that is, next month. So we'll just see what happens. I will tape it. Thanks for the suggestion. And if there's interest, then I'll teach some other dentists to do what I do. And if there's not, then I'll go back to just doing it myself and being happy.
So the Special Care Dental Association, the 31st annual meeting, April 11th, April 12th to the 14th in Atlanta, Georgia. The website is SCDA Online. So how long have you been a member of that group?
I've been there a few years. They're a good group. As I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I can't stop my brain from, running. And so the way I do it, the way I practice dentistry with this equipment, the way I approach seniors is different than any training that I've ever received there. So, I have picked up some things at that. I'm not going to say there isn't value there, but I'm hoping that I can bring some value because, we just need more dentists to do this. There's so many seniors that are in need and not getting it. And part of what I'm going to teach in that course too talks about the prevention side of it, because that's one of the big challenges. I talked about that in the article a little bit, that, seniors, it's kind of a perfect storm for tooth decay. They're losing their hand dexterity. They're losing some of their mental abilities. They've had bone loss. So there's all these nooks and crannies where food gets caught. They're on these high sugar diets, a lot of them. So, all those things combined means for a ton of class 5 caries, and without daily prevention, they can destroy their teeth faster than I can fix them sometimes. So that's a big part of what we're going to talk about down there as well.
So the president is Sam Zechwenbaum. Do you know Sam from the Rhode Island Department of Health?
I met him. Yeah.
Yeah, and David Miller.
Cool dude.
So it's really interesting because these boys and girls are all pretty much from the specialty no one talks about, which is, everybody talks about oral surgeons and endodontists and periodontists, but they don't talk about public health dentistry, which is one of the 9 specialties. And they just added the specialty of dental anesthesiology. And what you guys are really about is the public health and geriatric. Would you say geriatric dentistry should be its own specialty, or is geriatric dentistry really just a part of public health dentistry? Where do you see geriatric dentistry?
Oh, I do think it should be a specialty by itself because, just like with pedo, the dentistry itself is not tough, but you have to be able to approach the patients the right way. If they're not approached the right way and the treatment isn't handled the right way, then, you're not going to have happy customers. You're not going to be really helping them. So, it's not rocket science, but training needs to happen in order for people to, serve the seniors.
What do you think? I wasn't smart enough to ask. What do you think these dentists you need to be thinking about?
I hope that anybody who listened today will just read the article, and if they're interested, come down and come down to that dental conference and be part of the discussion, and give me a call if they have questions. I've talked to a couple of people that have read the article already that wanted more information. You can't pack all the details in an article, and you can't see it all online. You got to witness it. So tell them to reach out to me. Either shoot me a email or give me a call, and I'll be happy to help people.
What email do you want to give them?
My email is rich, RICH, at onsitedentalservices.com, and onsite is ONSITE. So rich at onsitedentalservices.com. So they can shoot me an email, call me, text me, whatever.
So I want to switch subjects. How did you move from the most beautiful state in the world, which is Idaho, and all the way out to New York, where that's the other side of the country? Yeah. I know you didn't move there for the potatoes. You left the potato heaven. What was going on in your life where you decided to go from Idaho to New York?
Well, boy, you don't have enough time to hear the whole story, but I'll give you the real shortened version of it. I basically grew up in a faith group, and I'm not going to name the one, that I just didn't feel like I was taught truth, and had some doubts about whether, I had great parents, love my folks, but I'm not sure they did their homework on who, when they taught me about who God is. So I took the time to read the Bible a few times myself. After reading it, I couldn't deny that it was God's word. And, I had little kids at the time, and kids can smell hypocrisy. If you're saying one thing and doing another, that they can sniff that out. So, just tried to start living my faith. I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I have to believe that God is guiding this organization. I can't tell you. There's not enough time to tell you the whole story, but basically their headquarters is back here in New York. So I'm volunteering a couple days a week at one of their centers here and provide care for the people that share the good news.
So I'm sorry. So you're working with or for a faith-based organization right now?
I'm working for them. I'm volunteering my time. So we provide dental care for the folks. If you know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses, they knock on people's doors and they try to teach people what the Bible says.
Is that what you are then, a Jehovah's Witness?
I am. Yeah. We don't get involved in politics. We don't, we stay neutral with all that stuff. Jesus didn't get involved in politics, so we feel like that's the example to follow. So, and we try to teach people who God is and what he has planned for the earth. So, I've got a couple of years left with my kids, and I just want them to, see a little bit more of the world too. When you grow up in one town your whole life and that's all then, you kind of get only that version of life experience. So I just wanted them to see things outside of their own comfort zone. I want
to read to you a post. Someone posted on Dental Town last night, and my response, and tell me if you saw this similarly. Someone went on Dental Town under Dental Town message board under Leeser is religion and the spiritual side of dentistry, and she says one of our loved teachers at our son's school was in a head-on collision on Friday and just about died. He's in an induced coma. Goes on and on and on. But then she says it's not a perfect world, but with a perfect God as creator, why not? Are we being published? What purpose is this supposed to serve? But anyway, you can see this person is struggling. And right. So I just sent you the text on that because that's above my pay grade when people are questioning God. But but anyway, I say that there. It would be really, really romantic if you would reply, because basically what she says she's suffering from depression because she can't understand why she sees so many horrible things going on in the world. Right. And so why does a God allow such horrible things to go in the world, like the New Zealand massacre to the Holocaust to slavery to.
Right.
So she's struggling with that. So I emailed you the link to that thread.
Okay.
By the way,
Yeah.
I have 4 boys, and their nanny from birth on was a Jehovah's Witness. And sweetest lady in the world. The boys, I think the boys half the time we'll call her mom. She's just an adorable woman. But I think you're an adorable man. I really think. I mean, you really are. I mean,
Thanks for the kind word, Howard.
that Big Bob Billy Boy teeth. I mean, that was genius to do in dental school. To sit there and have overhead of 15% while feeling very purpose driven because you're going where they ain't. And these kids. My final question to you is this: I see. 30 years ago, maybe you came out with $80,000 of total debt. Now these kids are borrowing $80,000 to $100,000 per year, right here in Arizona. Right. 2 private dental schools charging $100,000 a year. They come out $400,000 in debt. If they decide they want to go on and be a specialist, like an orthodontist, they might go 3 more years and now come out $600,000 in debt or $750,000. And then if they marry the girl sitting next to them in class, now they get married. And now they're $1.5 million in debt. And whenever you marry another dentist, when they start making babies, one of them usually quits working for a decade. So now you got $1.5 million debt. You're paying student loans on a doctor who's home raising 3 or 4 kids. My question to you is, if you came out $400,000 in student loans, do you think your business model of what you're doing could work and pay the bills?
I do. I net somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 a day.
Oh my!
So it's not incredible. It's not incredible money, but it
is incredible money. What are you talking about? $1,500 a day?
Oh yeah, or $2,000. Yeah. So ends are meeting. I could complain, but no one would listen.
The only time I make $1,500 net a day is when I'm out stealing cars on the weekend, and I'm only 100 miles. I'm only 5 miles from Apache Junction. I'm pretty sure that's where all the stolen cars go on their way.
Howard, one other selling point to this kind of practice: low startup overhead. To start from scratch, if you had nothing and you needed everything, would cost about $60,000. For a lot of dentists, they already have some of the stuff. They've already got hand pieces and sterilizer and that kind of stuff. So might be as low as $30,000, but it's compared to a conventional brick and mortar practice, it's inexpensive to start this kind of practice. Well, you got to know which stuff to get. You got to get the right stuff, not the wrong stuff. You got to know how to use it. You got to know how to approach the administrators and the people. But it's not rocket science. Once you got it, you got it.
Are you connected with Howard Goldstein, the guy in charge of the Dentaltown Online CE?
I'm not. I probably should be.
Yeah. So let's film that because I feel bad when I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and there's a dentist on every corner. But I've spent a lot of time in nursing homes, and nursing homes are it's like a time machine. I mean, you have these little bitty nurses, and they're not registered nurses. They're not even LPNs. Usually, they're certified nurse assistants. And this little girl is usually, and I say little girl because that's not racist or sexist. That's just what I see with my own eyes. You go in a nursing home, what % of the employees in the nursing homes are women?
Oh, 80, 90.
Yeah, 80. And they so when big old fat grandpa falls down, they can't even get him back to the chair, let alone if he's in a shower or wet and slippery. These girls tell me they're calling the fire department 2 to 3 times a week because it takes 5 big firemen to go pick up this really 250-pound, 6'6" fat grandpa.
Yeah.
And so when you follow them around and you look, they got to feed them, they got to bathe them, they got to do their Medicaid, they got to do everything. You know what oral home care comes down to? A Dixie cup, a toothbrush, a bead of toothpaste, a back and forth twice on the fronts of the incisors, spit in a cup, and it's done. I mean, there's no home care in a nursing home. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, very little. There's probably more than you want to get into, but I have obsessed about that issue because it's a complex problem. I've been able to solve it in some of my facilities. It takes time though. it's a paradigm shift for a lot of the people that are here. You got to show them photos. You got to get families involved. You got to show them the laws. You got to, once they're on board with, with the solution, you got to train the right people. You got to give them the right stuff. You got to also hold them accountable daily. So it's also not rocket science, but it is doable. Oh, and also I charge, once I get a facility set up with a prevention program, I charge $500 a month. I don't do it for free. People don't value what they don't pay for. So, there's residual income off these facilities to maintain these prevention programs. Because honestly, of all the things I can do to help these seniors, that prevention program is more important than what I do on the restorative side.
And what tools? I mean, some of your patients have dementia. Some have full-blown Alzheimer's. Some have rheumatoid arthritis. They don't have hand dexterity. Are you doing this mostly with a mouthwash or?
We use chlorhexidine. If you've done any research on pneumonia, the bacteria that kill people via pneumonia started in the mouth. And so all the research points to chlorhexidine. Now, chlorhexidine, of course, is liquid, and a lot of seniors would aspirate that. So what we do is we take a little 5-ounce cup, and we have the assistant dip the bristles of the toothbrush in the cup, get them damp, and they brush the teeth with dampened bristles. There's also toothbrushes that are designed to go over the top of a toothbrush that get the lingual and the buccal at the same time. Collis curve is the name of that. So the right equipment, the right stuff, it makes a huge difference. Seniors, when you're using chlorhexidine every day, you reduce inflammation. It cuts down on all kinds of cardiovascular problems when you reduce inflammation in the mouth. So that's one of the things that we use in our prevention.
Where are you getting your chlorhexidine gluconate?
Oh, I think I just order it from. I give them the option. If they want me to get it, I use Pearson Dental. If they get it on themselves, they've got their own pharmacies that they're all tied into. I don't care where they get it, and we don't use a lot of it, but we do use it. So,
does New York, have they ever grown one good Idaho potato?
I have no idea. I'll have to find, maybe next time we chat, Howard, I'll have the answer to that question.
I grew up, my dad had 9 Sonic drive-ins, and of course the kingpin was McDonald's and Ray Kroc, and he was the guy who discovered Idaho, put him on a map. Remember J.R. Simplot? And
oh, yeah.
So I just got to tell you my quick story. So J.R. Simplot was growing these Idaho potatoes, and in California, where the first 9 McDonald's opened, the French fries were just unbelievable. So then here comes Ray Kroc, and he goes and buys out McDonald's Brothers and starts expanding this. And when he starts expanding it, those French fries don't taste like they did in Des Plaines, Illinois, like they did in Southern California. And he first thought, there was they weren't giving him the recipe or something, and nobody could figure it out. And finally, it was J.R. Simplot that figured out, look, man, when you take these Idaho potatoes and you put them in a dry desert Southern California, that tastes totally different after it's cooked than when you take it and send it to 100% humidity Midwest Illinois. So now you got these soggy moisture potatoes, and you have these wimpy, wilty French fries. And Ray Kroc almost blew a gasket, and the guy who solved the problem became a billionaire. What he figured out was, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take that Idaho potato, and we're going to skin it and cut it, and we're going to just deep fry it for the first 10 seconds. We're just going to blanch it, and that oil is going to lock all that humidity in, and then we're going to transport frozen, pre-blanched potatoes. And then when those started showing up all over Illinois, it tasted just like the ones that had some curing time in the dry desert of Los Angeles.
I think that was in the movie The Founder. Wasn't that?
I don't know.
Wasn't that little?
I love that movie. That was, what was his name? Keating?
Yeah, Michael Keaton.
God, that was a great movie. I actually got to see Ray Kroc speak. I was 10 years old.
Did you?
Wichita, you're going to this dental convention, the special needs, special care dentistry convention. Well, my dad went to the restaurant convention. So we got in his Lincoln Town car in Wichita, drove down Interstate 35, 6 hours to Dallas, got to sit in the front row. I was only 10. I only remember just bits and pieces of it. But Yeah,
Cool.
that was wild times. They had just rolled out the interstate, so it was the first time the whole United States was going 100 miles away from home. Before that,
Right.
every old folk you met in Parsons, Kansas, had never even been to Nevada, Missouri. But after Eisenhower rolled out that interstate, it just was a psychological snap where people in Kansas said, "Well, hell, let's just drive all the way to the ocean and we'll see Disneyland and swim in the ocean." And now all these kids, they have no idea how that Eisenhower's interstate infrastructure changed the world, probably as big as later on the internet coming along. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what was bigger, the interstate or the internet, but they were both huge. Hey, love you to death. Love your purpose-driven. Love your mission-driven. I really hope
what you guys do too, Howard. You guys are good folk. I appreciate what you guys do with your magazine.
Well, thank you, and thanks for writing an article in it. And I hope you connect up with Howard Goldstein and tape that conference, because this is something where the next generation of kids need to go service the 4.5% of Americans that are in a nursing home.
Okay, Howard Goldstein. That's the guy I need to reach out to.
I'll email you both right now. Right now.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thanks
Howard.
so much for coming on the show.